Hi, today we'll be making a home-style Salisbury steak with gravy, mashed potatoes, French-style green beans, and French bread. The twist is that we will be using pressure cookers. I call them dueling pressure cookers. I will show you how to make a delicious Salisbury steak in the pressure cooker, as well as your mashed potatoes in the pressure cooker. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is get our mashed potatoes ready to go. For the mashed potatoes, I'm using a 6-quart Power Pressure Cooker XL. And what I do is I just use a simple steamer insert. You certainly don't have to. The outcome that I like, the consistency of the potato out of the water in a steaming fashion is I prefer. You can also make your mashed potatoes on the stove, just showing you some shortcuts. So I'm going to put about 2 cups of water into the Power Pressure Cooker. And I've already prepared my potatoes. And the only thing I want to say is, just like when you're making them on the stove, is to try to keep it at least consistent cuts when you make your potatoes. So you want to use like 1-inch cubes or 3/4-inch cubes, but just, you don't have to be perfect. Just make them as consistent as you can. I'm going to go ahead and add those into the pressure cooker, and you can see it, just this amount just comes to the top of the steamer. I'm going to go ahead and add some salt, just a little bit. Fingers are wet, so the salt is sticking. And then what we're going to do is just go ahead and put the lid on. You want to make sure that it locks in place, and you can hear it click. It says closed. Make sure that you're set to your valve is set. My pressure button for close kind of has worn off because that's how much I use this. And I go ahead and plug that in. And if you come down here, you want to just go to fish, vegetables, and steam. I'm sorry, I'm going to cancel that. Fish, vegetables, steam. And it'll give you 2 minutes. For this amount, I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to 5 minutes, which is plenty. If you have less potatoes, you can probably leave it at 2 or 3. And right now what's happening is it's indicating that it's building up to pressure. Once it builds up to pressure, then it'll start the countdown. And you don't have to be afraid of this. My mom and my sister are afraid of the pressure cookers. That's part of the reason why I'm doing these videos. But it's very, very simple and safe to use. And you can just hear that now. The lid has locked in place. And once it builds to pressure, it's going to begin counting down. So even though we said 5 minutes, it's going to take a little bit more, probably another 5 minutes to build up to pressure. And we'll come back to that when it's finished. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make our Salisbury steak meat mixture. What I've got here is about 5 pounds of ground chuck, 85% and 15% fat. Certainly you can use a lot less. My family loves this dish and likes leftovers. So I've got 5 pounds here. I've got 2 eggs. These are actually pretty large eggs. I'm going to go ahead and break the yolks. I'm just going to beat it lightly. You can put it right in if you want. It's just my preference. I'll go ahead and put that on. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my seasonings. I always use adobo all-purpose seasoning. I do a lot of Spanish cooking. This has salt, garlic, oregano, and black pepper, and turmeric. So it's a nice mixture. You gotta watch though, because it does have salt in it, and I am going to add more salt. I'm using Trade East onion powder. It's a very good high-quality onion powder. You can saute onions, dice them finely, and put them in. My family doesn't like to see onions at all, so I use a high-quality onion powder. Of course, my Sedged products, my garlic powder, which is a high-quality garlic powder, and I'm going to use fresh ground peppercorns, and I'm actually black peppercorns that I'm grinding in. Worcestershire sauce. You can also, if you don't have it, you can use soy sauce, but we're going to use probably, for 5 pounds, probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons. Just kind of eyeball it. Fresh parsley. I think this is a key ingredient. This is already washed and prepared. This is USDA organic grade parsley. And I'll show you a little trick. Instead of picking all the leaves apart, you can just go ahead and shave them down. I personally don't like to do the herbs myself. Pick a couple of the stems out. Saves a lot of time. And what I do with my herbs is just kind of get them all into a ball. You don't want to beat them up too much. And you just want to kind of chop those. And if you have them compressed, it really makes it nice. I think a lot of parsley is good. Again, it's to taste. We're just going to get those puppies chopped up pretty good. The other thing I like to do is I like to use these mats. See, this one's labeled veggies, because then I can just take the mat and I can just toss my parsley in. Alright, last thing we're going to add are some breadcrumbs. I'm going to do that liberally. Again, remember I have 5 pounds here. I'm probably using half of a regular 15-ounce container. And see here, my potatoes I talked about earlier are coming up to pressure. And I like to just get in there and use my hands. You don't want to work the meat too much. I'm going to mix all the ingredients. And when I have this mixed thoroughly, we'll be right back. Alright, so our pressure cooker timer has just gone off. Remember, we set it at 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to release the pressure. Some people use a rag. It's not necessary. You just flip your nozzle over. And as you can see, it might seem kind of intimidating. But you can put your hand over it. I wouldn't recommend holding your hand down on the steam. You want to let your steam out. Remember, these are delicious potatoes that we're going to make into mashed potatoes. You can hear me over the steam. Okay, all of our steam is pretty much dissipated. It smells great in here. We can just go ahead and lift off. When it's done, the steam is expelled. You're able to just lift off, and look at that. I don't even have to check these, but I will just for the video. So I've made them probably 50 times, but they are just ready to fall apart. And the reason that I use a steamer basket is because I think when they come out like this, that they're almost like baked potatoes. Again, there's no water to drain off and so forth. So if you look at this, you have a keep warm button. That light is on. I can just go ahead and put this lid on. You can hear it wants to create a vacuum. I'm going to go ahead and just cancel this. I'm going to unplug it. It's going to stay completely warm and hot in there. And we're going to move on to our beef patties. And these are ready to go. And we'll get back to the potatoes when we're ready to mash them up. Okay, so we have our meat mixture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to form a patty. Just going to grab an amount of beef mixture. And really these are like little mini meatloaves, if you think about it. And if you want to go like traditional Salisbury steak, you want to kind of make it oblong. You want to press it out probably to about 1/4 inch. You don't, like I said, you don't want to mess with it too much, but you want to get it formed so that it's like traditional Salisbury steak. And if you could see, I've got patties made up here. So I'm going to put this last one on here, and we're going to get ready to fry these up. Alright, so what we're going to do is I've got just a little bit of oil heated up in a pan, and you want to make sure that it's hot. We're going to go ahead and we're going to brown these. You don't want to overcrowd your pan. So right now I'm going to put 3 in. Want to brown them, we're going to go ahead and flip them. That's our first step. So you just want them to be a nice golden brown, and you don't want to mess with them too much. So go ahead and flip that. Look at that. That looks amazing. While the Salisbury steaks are sauteing, I've got about 5 cups of hot water, warm water. And you can use a beefy mushroom, you can use an onion soup mix. And what I do, because my family doesn't like to see their onions, is I just smash this all up. This is a quick fix. You don't have to do this, but I think it does add a lot of flavor. And then we're going to mix that in. Kind of let those onions hydrate. Make sure we get to the bottom. So we're getting ready to make our gravy. I'm using Better Than Bouillon beef base. It's an excellent product. You can use your own beef stock, which I have, but we're going to use probably about 2 teaspoons of the paste. Angus wants to have some. That's about 1.5. So let's do another 1/4. Angus. Alright, just going to kind of let that settle. We're going to mix all that together. And we will be back when we're ready to make our gravy. Alright, so what I've done is now all the Salisbury steaks have been browned. And I've just kind of layered them. I use a rack at the bottom. And I've just kind of layered them and placed them in there. And I'm going to now go and prepare our gravy. Okay, so now these are the pan drippings from using a little bit of oil and frying up our 85-15 ground chuck. And what I like to do, just because we're going to get ready to make a roux, got this on medium heat. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of butter, like 2 tablespoons full. And we're going to melt that off. Maybe I want to turn that down a little bit. And then we're going to just kind of, almost like a deglazing of the pan. You work quickly. You want to get all those good bits in there and the flavor from the beef and the seasoning. I'm going to do that quickly though. I'm going to say we're going to turn this down then a little bit. What we're going to do is we're just going to make a quick roux, or if you're Hungarian like me, a rantash. And we're going to add flour. We're not going to add it all at once. Maybe like not even a 1/4 cup of flour. And you want to make sure that the flour is stirred well. We're going to add more. You don't want to burn it, so you don't want it on too high, because your flour will be bitter. I'm going to add a little bit more, maybe about 2 tablespoons. You're going to do the same thing. You want to work continuously. Incorporate your flour. And you can see that it's starting to bubble, and you can see all those good bits of beef and seasoning. Add a little bit more. You don't want to add it all at once. You don't want it to taste floury. You don't want to burn your flour. Now we're starting to get a nice bubbly consistency. A little bit more. It's important. This is an important part of your gravy. Some people use cream of mushroom, canned soup, and canned gravy and all that stuff, but when you've got it right here, why not use it? It's much better. Alright, so you can see kind of spreads out and it's bubbling a little bit. So now what you want to do, if you remember our beef broth mixture, our little onions are nice and hydrated. Our broth is rich. I'm going to add this a little bit at a time. So maybe like 1/4 cup. And you're going to keep working it. Alright? You want to incorporate that flour. And you want to keep stirring it. And it will continue to thicken. You'll continue to add your broth. So we'll show you. Let's see how it's thickening. We'll show you shortly how this looks. Alright, so you can see that we've got all of our gravy going here, and it's at a nice simmer. And what I do at the very end, now this is just a small can of mushrooms that I've diced up. You can certainly use fresh mushrooms. You can use as many as you want. You can incorporate them, or you don't have to. I'm just going to go ahead and add those in, and you can see that our gravy is nice and thickened. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add a little bit more water because we're going to be putting this into the pressure cooker. So don't be afraid, and that's why I like to make my gravy on the stove. I like to see the consistency before I put it into the pressure cooker. And we're just going to stir that around, and then once I bring that up to a simmer, we're going to add that to our pressure cooker. Alright, so our gravy is done, and what we're going to do is we are going to pour this into, it's very hot, we're going to pour it into our Salisbury steak into the pressure cooker, and this is a 10 quart. I'm going to kind of try to go around the edges, make sure we go underneath. Now remember, our beef was cooked. We browned it. We wanted to get nice and brown on either side. Didn't want to overcook it, so it's probably like a nice medium rare. And as you can see, that looks yummy already. We're going to go ahead and plug our pressure cooker in. I am going to place the lid on. Put it to lock position. And I am going to go to... Alright, so what I've done is I've set the pressure cooker to 6 minutes. I think that's plenty. Alright, so our Salisbury steak patties are done. Time has elapsed, and we're going to go and let it steam out. Again, nothing to be afraid of. Alright, so we let all the pressure out. Just gonna look, I can hear it bubbling. Oh, look how amazing that looks. So we're just gonna go ahead and prepare our potatoes. I'm gonna put the lid back on this. Prepare our mashed potatoes. I'm just gonna add butter. I think we're gonna just go with another half, as my mom says. To make mashed potatoes, you gotta have butter and make sure they're salted. So we're just gonna go ahead and smash these up and melt the butter because they're still hot from being in our pressure cooker. I'm gonna add some salt, and we'll be back. So there's the finished product. Our Salisbury steak and French green beans, mashed potatoes and gravy, and some fresh French bread.